Yeah, see, I've got to go to Sioux Falls tomorrow night, and then I'll be there Wednesday afternoon, and I head for Thursday. Well, you'll be driving into it. Driving to Florida. You're gonna have visibility. Yeah, and if you go 34, you've got a lot of, twists and turns and not a whole lot of shoulder. If you go up on 14, you got some shoulder.
Usually I drive 34 all the way now. This is how it is when I start. Now if I drive north.
I've got about a minute to go.
Recording in progress.
All right, you got everything going? All right, we'll call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amy, would you take the roll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Dibdahl?
Here.
Commissioner Cronin? Here. Commissioner Wire?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
And Mr. Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there any thing on the consent calendar anyone wants to discuss? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve a consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no unfinished business, under new business, public hearing, temporary malt beverage license, Madison Baseball Association Bingo Night event, March 15th, 2025. Jameson, do you want to speak to that? I don't know that I see anyone else here that may.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a temporary bulk beverage license application for an event, as you said, on March 15th. Events like this have been held in the past, and staff have no concerns.
Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve temporary malt beverage license Madison Baseball Association for bingo night on March 15th at the Armory.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9, discussion and possible action on advertisement for bid of North Egan Avenue reconstruction. Jameson or Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get this started here.
Okay.
So we are continuing the discussion that we've had in previous meetings on the reconstruction project for North Egan Avenue. This goes from 2nd Street up to 9th Street. As we've discussed in the past, the city has applied for 3 different funding sources for this project. One is SRF funding through the state, and that has been awarded to us in the past. That covers about 3 million of the 8.4 million, 5 million of the 8.4 million, leaving a shortfall of 3.1 million on that financing package. The second one I'll mention is the Transportation Alternatives Program, as discussed at a past meeting. This has been applied for, but we do not anticipate to get funding soon enough to construct not only this year, but next year as well. So that would likely push funding to 2027. And per past direction, staff were comfortable proceeding with the project without that funding. And that was for a smaller portion of the project, as it does not cover the wide parts of the project looking to be accomplished. The third funding source is through Rural Development Office at USDA. And that funding source, we have submitted our initial applications, still waiting on response on that initial review. And at that point, we would still have to respond to some of their comments and submit again, and they would have another 30 days to consider. So ultimately, the question tonight is whether we want to wait for the RD funding, which may or may not have better financing options for the city, and likely would delay our construction a year to 2026, or if we want to proceed with the SRF financing that we have available so that we can continue with construction in 2025. But that project, we'd have to find $3.1 million in local funds to make it keep to that schedule. The RD funding, I said, I think could get some better financing options. We've had good luck with them in the past. Lately, there's been a lot of local governments who have looked to the SRF program because there's been a lot of ARPA dollars from the federal government that's gone through to the state. So I think the RD maybe has not been as utilized as it was in the past, but we don't know what that would be, and we don't know what the timeline on that would be. So we are here to request direction from the commission, and staff are happy to answer any questions. Ryan, would you have anything to add?
Maybe I'll just add that I do have an updated construction estimate for what the cost would be. KLJ had provided me an updated one a while back. It was sometime in, I believe, October, November. And then they have compared these prices that they provided at that juncture to actual bid costs that they've been seeing on projects that have been bid in February. And the updated total estimated construction cost is $6.7 million. So we shaved quite a bit off of that 8.4 number that we were running forward with for quite a while. So that's very good news. If the costs come in at that, we wouldn't be $3 million short, we'd be $1.5 million short.
Discussion from the commission.
I was concerned at the 3.1 million, but if it's shaved down that much, I would hate to not proceed at this point.
Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, maybe the costs are coming even better. Maybe they are close to 8.4. It's a educated guess, but a guess nonetheless, so.
So Ryan, even though we've been awarded, I'll say 5.3 million from SRF, that only covers certain eligible activities of the project. Would we anticipate we'd be able to use that full 5.3, or would that be less than originally planned?
I think that's the other component of it is they'll only pay for the surfacing, they'll pay for the utility work and the surfacing directly above the utility. So if all of those costs go down, then that funding probably reduces as well. So it's probably not, an apples to apples comparison to say we would have the roughly 5.2 million. It would probably be something, a little bit less than that.
Other questions?
Is there any concern if we are short, even if it's just the 1.5 million, where we're gonna pull that from? Maybe that's a question.
Yeah, staff have done an initial review of what we would recommend if you proceeded with this year's project and needed to find that up to $3.1 million locally. Our recommendation at this point would be to use that money from our tax anticipation note that was issued last year. That was for a maximum of $5 million. We've used about $2 million on that, and so we would have the remaining amount available. That is at 3.75%, which is coincidentally the same rate as the SRF financing. So it is a good rate, and that's where we would start. If we had other projects that come down the road that we would have used that tax anticipation note for, we'd have to analyze to see where our additional funding sources would be on that. So it could impact other projects, but that would be that would be debt that would be readily accessible for us. Amy, anything to add?
That's correct, yeah.
And you wouldn't have concerns about anything future savings-wise?
I think there's some concerns at what projects it would affect or where we would have to pull additional debt from on continuing projects or future projects, and we'd have to look at those avenues.
What's our timeline on this project? It's a
2-year construction. So the current plan has been to construct in 2025 and 26. Of course, that could be delayed, and that's what we're looking for direction on tonight. The plan for year 1 would be to construct both sides of 2nd to 3rd right away in the first part of the first year of construction, and then move forward to do one side, either, I think it's the west side first, Ryan?
Yes, correct.
West side from 3rd to 6th?
To 5th.
To 3rd to 5th, do that all on one side so that we can use the east side for traffic throughout that construction. Once the west is done, flip it over, use that side for traffic, and then the east side would be the next part for construction. That would be year one, and then year two would be to go from Fifth to Ninth, again, starting with just the west side, and then the east side once the west is finished. That way we can keep traffic open to the best of our ability through the construction period.
I think it being a 2-year project does ease some of our financial pains in the project.
So is it a project or projects?
It'd be one project bid out with a 2-year construction timeline.
About 60% of the cost would be in year one.
And we have the ability to advertise for bids, take bids back. We don't have to commit, correct?
Correct, yeah. I mean, if the costs come in really high, we can reject all bids and
I don't know why we wouldn't proceed at this point.
And, you know, that's where I'm at. The thing that I, look at is, we have been, seeing really favorable bids in the last few things and that we've been doing. And, we have the opportunity in that to go out for bids. If the bids come in really favorable, and that we have the ability to either move forward at that point in time, or we can reject it and, wait till a later time. But, until we go out for bids, we won't know where we're at.
Are we jeopardizing the TAP funding or the RD grant if we jump and start, or can that, if we start the project, is that?
Yeah, I think we still have the possibility of either of those funding sources. Especially if you bid it out now, decide that the numbers aren't in our favor, or you want to look at another funding source, you could decline those bids, you could reject those bids, and continue forward waiting on the RD funding. That'd be my understanding. Ryan, would I be correct
yeah,
there?
yep, I think that's right. And as far as the TAP grant goes, I did get an email from the Department of Transportation that says we will be awarded some money. They said they'd reach out in the next 2 weeks and look into a financial package and specify what that would be. But the biggest thing with that is they were looking at that pushing to a fall 26 bid with a 27 construction. So that's really pushing our project 2 years.
And then, the maximum amount that they had awarded in the past, do you remember what that number was? It wasn't as high as we were hoping.
Yeah, I've been researching that, and the most that I'd seen them award was around 600,000, but I was able to do some research today and found out that the city of T was awarded over $1 million.
Okay.
And I don't know the details on that, but, that sets the new high mark, I guess.
If we decline bids and go another year out, is TAP funding something we could look at again, or would the 2006-07 apply?
We would still be in line to accept that TAP fund. We would just continue to, push that forward and make that be a possibility, but the timing probably isn't going to change.
Thank you.
So we have submitted, the grant application, or we've just submitted a letter of intent for that TAP?
We've submitted the grant application, submitted that in last July. And we were anticipating finding out in end of December to early January, and then some of their timelines got pushed. And I just received that email from them end of last week when I was out. They indicated that we did indeed get selected as a fundable project, but I don't know the amount.
And again, on the TAP, that award still wouldn't be till fall of '26.
Likely, yeah. I mean,
So it's still a very long.
given that as a likely date. They did mention the possibility of if the city paid for all of the preliminary engineering, that it might be something that pushes the timeline up, but when they're talking fall of '26, I don't think it's gonna push it up enough to get us into '25.
Could it be used in the second part of the project?
I believe so, especially if there's if it's only 600,000, I think we were asking for over 2 million. So there would be potential to apply that to the work that hasn't already been completed.
Other thoughts, other questions?
would be the bid opening date?
Yeah, if we looked to advertise as soon as possible, I want to find a calendar here. So we could advertise probably the 14th. We'd probably want to do that for about 3 weeks, have the bid opening somewhere around April 11th, which would put us in line with the second meeting in April to potentially award. And then we'd have about 30 days to get our paperwork in line and get everything, notice of award. That probably puts us into mid-May with our construction, which is a little later than we hoped, but it might be doable.
Other questions? Thoughts?
I'm in favor of opening it to bid.
I
agree.
also am in favor in going to bid. You know, we'll know a lot more once we get the bids back and also seeing the number of bidders. And that's one of the things that we've really seen an uptick in on things that we bid, you know, recently, is instead of getting just one bid or two bids, we've had 5, 6, and 7. And if we wait too long and go to bid toward fall, that may fall off, you know, just depending on, you know, how full different bidders and that, you know, get to start anything in 2025. So I personally am in favor of going to bids and making a decision after we get the bids in as to where do we go from there. Other thoughts?
Once we get our bids, can we have a meeting right away? Do we have to wait till the next commission meeting?
So the 14th, I think is what Ryan said, was that a Thursday? I set my calendar down.
Friday,
April 11th, I thought he said. Yeah, with the 14th, that's when they go out.
Advertise on the 14th.
Okay,
yeah, we'd begin advertising.
and the opening would be,
3 week
April
for
11th.
opening. We'd open it I would probably say we could open it the 4th or the 11th of April.
And we already have a meeting scheduled for the 7th.
yeah, so if we did open on the 4th,
Yeah.
the next, that's a Friday, the next Monday would be a commission meeting. If the timeline ends up being different and you'd like to have a special meeting to consider right away, we can certainly do that too.
I would, I think, at that point, if we're off a week, just because if we
Sure.
want to expedite that process.
Yeah, I would support that as well.
Is that enough time to bid the project?
I think it is. I think 3 weeks is enough. The longer you give, the better, but I think if we get the word out and we reach out to contractors and let them know it's coming, 3 weeks is plenty of time for them to put together a bid.
Okay.
Other questions?
I don't.
Hey, if no other discussion in that, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to open up bids for the North Egan Avenue project reconstruction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 10, approve the quote from Sweeney Controls Company for distributed I/O panel. And I'm going to ask Jameson if you'll cover this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This winter, staff discovered that some of the communications cables at the wastewater treatment facility were damaged due to freezing. We have been able to have a temporary fix so that everything is still operating correctly, but this panel is a necessity to be installed to have a permanent fix for that facility. The quote is for $26,500. It includes all the labor and materials that will be provided by Sweeney Controls, the vendor. Any remaining labor will be performed by the city staff. This is a necessary purchase, but it was not something that was budgeted this year, so we are here for commission approval.
Questions or comments?
Labor is included here?
Yep, all labor that would be provided outside of city staff is included within this quote.
Other questions? Comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the quote from Sweeney Controls Company for distributed I/O panel work in the amount of $26,500.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 11, award the bid number 969, Sportsplex Roof Project. And Jameson, do you want to address that?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
When the city acquired ownership of the First Bank and Trust Sportsplex about a year ago, we knew that the roof was a project that would be needed in the necessary future, and so we did budget some funds this year to replace at least part of the roof. We were fortunate to have a competitive bidding process. We received 6 bids from various companies in the area. Low bid on the base was from ACS, a local company here, in the amount of $139,500. That's the base bid to complete replacement of a large portion of the roof, which we knew has reached end of life and needs to be replaced. There were 2 alternates, one for $39,570, another for $36,120, and those are for replacement of different portions of the roof, which still have some life in them, but we wanted to see what the cost would be since we had this project started. The amount budgeted for this year is $150,000, which would cover the base bid, but it would not cover either of the alternates. At this point, staff recommend awarding the base bid with no alternates because we feel like this has a little bit of wiggle room for that base bid to be implemented correctly, especially if they get into the roof and they see things that require additional work. And at this point, those alternates are outside of our budgeted amount. I'll stand by for questions.
and then the alternates are also separate, so it's not like we're coming up and attaching them to each other, so that makes a difference too, so. Any other questions or comments?
What's the life of the roof they'd be putting on? Expectancy?
To Ryan, do you know that answer? Or Mike?
Yeah,
I
and
told Mike the odds of him staying back there without getting called up were low, so.
And if you turn your mic on, thank you. You got it.
I think that most of it's 20 years, is usually about 20 to 25 years. They're rated with a certain wind rating, but there's a warranty, I think, for 10 years, if I remember right.
Other questions? Comments? The one comment that I will make, and that is that we do know that in heavy rains and that it takes a few 5-gallon buckets to catch what's currently coming through the roof, and it's not gonna heal itself, so we do need to do something with it.
Just, I don't know if the public, just for the north the north 2/3 of the building will be covered on the base bid, and then the south third would be split in halves for the addendums. We haven't noticed any leaks on the south third of the building, so the north 2/3 would be re-roofed for the base bid.
In the north 2/3 is the original building, and the south third was an addition that was put on years later. And so the roof, there are 2 separate roofs in entirety, so they don't attach to each other, so that makes it, so that we're basically replacing the original roof on the original portion of the building, and then the 2 alternatives would be for repairing the addition, which is also at a different height than the other one, so it's like 2 different roofs. Other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to award bid number 969 Sportsplex Roof to ACS in the amount of $139,500.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 12, award bid number 970 to the City Library Ramp Project. And again, I'll ask Jameson to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one gets a little more complicated, so if I misspeak, I'll ask anyone else to chime in, make sure I'm getting this correct. Another very competitive process, and for background on this, we had tried bidding out reconstruction of the library ramps twice last year. It was more towards the latter half of the summer, and we did not find very competitive pricing, and the costs were well outside of our budgeted amount. So we decided to relook at the project, bid it again this year, and the February bid was much more favorable to our pricing. We had 7 bidders turn in some sort of bid. The base bids ranged from $58,980 to $177,201. And then there were 3 different alternates on this, and I won't read through those numbers. You can see them in your agenda packet. The alternates were for a couple different aspects that we pulled out from the base bid, hoping that we could get the lowest pricing possible for the base bid, and also seeing what the alternates were in case we wanted to have some add-ons or wanted to complete some of the work ourselves. The first alternate would be to install a boiler and controls for hydronic heat tubing. So the base bid includes the tubing in the ramps to heat them in the winter to help keep ice and snow off of them. The alternate pulled out the boiler and the controls, which is something the city felt that if needed, we could purchase and hire somebody to install ourselves. And so that was alternate 1. Alternate 2 was for unlighted handrail, so standard handrail, 192 feet. And then alternate 3 is also for handrail. This would be lighted handrail, also for 192 feet. So the base bid didn't have any handrails, and we pulled that out to see what the additional costs were for unlighted versus lighted. At this point, the staff would recommend awarding I'll pause there first. Okay, so depending on what you want to do, will lead you to different contractors. So the base bid, the lowest base bid from Kesselut Excavation, again, I'm going to round to $59,000. If you were to award, make sure I get this right, if you award the base bid along with alternate 1, which is the boiler, then the lowest bid would go to Rexwinkle Concrete. If you were to take the base bid and add in alternate 2, that would go to Amert Construction, so that would be the base bid plus the unlighted handrail. Alternate 3, if the lighted handrail came in higher than we find acceptable, so we believe that additional options to lighting the area could be accomplished without the lighted handrail, so we don't recommend awarding alternate 3. But based on whether you want to do just the base, or the base plus 1, or the base plus 2, changes which contractor you go with. Staff recommend moving with just the base bid, which would be Kesselut Excavation, again, $59,000. We believe that some of those additional work that was provided for in the alternates could be things that could be accomplished by city staff, both in the purchase of the boiler and controls for the tubing, as well as fabrication and installation of unlighted handrail. I will pause there. Ryan, did I get anything wrong? Miss anything?
Nope, I think you got it all right.
All right, broken clocks twice a day. Anybody else have any questions?
Is it currently lighted?
The railings themselves are not currently lighted, correct? Yeah, but we have purchased some street lights, I'll call them, or lamp posts that aren't installed, if I get that right, but we have available to install to help to light the area more.
I would prefer it's lighted, I guess.
Yeah, we'll make sure there is lighting in the area. We just don't recommend moving with the lighted handrails, which were more expensive than we had available.
Other questions?
Can you scroll down to that table again?
While the group is looking, the alternate 1 for the boilers, the low bid was $20,000. We had purchased a similar setup for the building we're in now, the City Hall, as the front area on the south side of the building is heated. And that was a larger area, and we were able to get that for less than $20,000. So we were confident or optimistic that we can find something similar to the ramps here. And then the low bid on the handrails was, also, nope, not, that was from,
Eagle?
yeah, Sea Eagle, is that right? Yep. Oh, but their base was, a lot higher. So that would have been, Amert would have been the logical one to go with, if you're combining the base bid and the alternate. And so the alternate there was 22,000. And staff feel that when you add that to the base bid of 62,000 from Amert, we could fabricate those ourselves in-house and install.
So the base bid included plumbing into the building
The two,
Yes,
to add a boiler later.
yeah, you'd install the boiler and the
Yeah.
controls at the end of it, yeah.
What do we have budgeted for this, do you know?
So this project was planned for last year, and so we didn't get the full amount into this year's budget because it's been a delayed project. There is $30,000 in that line item, but I think there was some other projects that was planned for this year. So I think one way or another, you'll need to have a supplemental appropriation. Last year, we budgeted 50,000 for it, and when we were getting bids around 200,000, that's why we delayed the project a year. So it's still over that 50,000 that we had anticipated, but much closer to the range we were looking at. So you'll have to do a supplemental appropriation to cover that amount. We did receive at least $20,000 in grant award last year from the American Libraries Association. We made a second application this year, hoping to get some additional funds, and we aren't able to share any results of that yet. But we're hoping that we'll have more than $20,000 to put towards this project. Kesselut's, again, bid is about $59,000. I would say adding in the cost that city labor would provide, you'd probably be adding, I'll say 25,000, Mike Ryan, am I ballparking it? Between the boiler and the handrails, and hopefully we'll have more than $20,000 of grant revenue to offset some of those costs.
And this is for both sides?
Yeah, Ryan, do you want to explain what this covers?
Yeah, this would just be a single ramp that would go off the west side. So remove the two ramps and only put back a single.
Okay.
It also includes something with the doors, I'm not
Yeah,
confident there.
it would include removing and replacing the front doors, widening those so they're ADA accessible.
How wide is the ramp, the single?
6 foot, it says.
Yeah, 6 foot.
Does Mike's brush go up and down it?
Other questions? Okay, from the board, recommendations.
I'll make a motion, we accept, the total base bid, project to ACS, right?
No.
Nope, you're on the wrong one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kessler Excavation for 58,980.56 and not accepting any of the alternate bids.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, March 2025, city updates.
Okay, we have some pretty quick updates again for you this month. I anticipate as we get closer to construction season 2025 that these will lengthen again, but for now, we got another quick month. First, we want to highlight the hiring of our new utilities director, Michael Pluster. He did start about a month ago. He didn't quite make the updates from a month ago, but he brings an extensive experience from the electric industry, and he has been serving as a new utilities director and doing a fantastic job. So we are very excited to Michael and welcome aboard. Here's our list of active projects. We're crossing off community engagement events. We've established a lot of new events, and now the job is to maintain those, but they're gonna be ongoing, and so we're not gonna be listing those as active projects. Also crossing off the armory roof. The roof reconstruction or replacement has been finished. All the damages from the fire have also been complete. We are going to need to look at the floor. The floor has been buckling from water. We're gonna be treating that as a separate endeavor because the project within the roof itself has been complete and then repaired. Yeah.
Is that on the contractor as well?
Yeah, we've turned into our insurance, and so our insurance will be working with their insurance to determine who's paying for that. And I'll clarify, paying for that as in paying for the floor. The contractor was able to complete all the repairs to the roof. It was within their wheelhouse, and they did a nice job of that. So now we're just down to that floor that's showing some buckling. Okay, we wanted to make a note of some of our upcoming awareness campaigns. So again, we have established a lot of new ways to communicate with the public, to engage with them. And so in 2025, we'll be reaffirming those campaigns and establishing awareness to make sure that people know what's going on. Most notably, we've got our Madison app that we had implemented last year that we want to encourage people to download and to utilize. We'll be bringing awareness to that. Also, the stay informed part of the slide is with text updates, and so you can go to that QR code and get signed up for our text updates. And then the Sportsplex, obviously we had the roof project on tonight. That's been in operation for about a year, and that's all done through a mobile app. And we are going to be pushing out awareness campaign on that as well, so people know that the building is there and ready to be used. And then the last thing on there down in the center is Good Neighbors, Great Madison. That's gonna be a new campaign that we have just started, and that's gonna be easy reminders for the city to put out to the public on things that, maybe it's things that we get questions on or get phone calls on, or just things that we want the public to know about. And so we've got a few things that we'll be pushing out, and I've got one at the end here that I will highlight. A past event, we had our most recent city circle. It was held out at Peaceful Pine. We had some excellent discussion and participation from obviously quite a few residents of Peaceful Pines. We also had several members of the public who aren't residents who came to participate in that as well. And then we have library events. No, you're good, Amy. Yep, we have library events. As always, they've always got a number of events occurring over the past month. So they had building for Valentine's boxes, and then they also had the Best Buddies program take over the library. Their trivia continues, hosted by the library, put on by the library, hosted by the office. And then they had a letter writing campaign to write to legislators to support library efforts within the state this year, as the legislature has a number of bills pertaining to libraries. Upcoming events, our next city circle, Tuesday, March 18th. We're gonna do it from 1 to 2 p.m. and that will be at Valiant Living.
And that too is open to the public.
Correct, yep, open to the public. Upcoming events, and these are all library ones as well. They got their musical Mingo, on March 6th at 6:30 p.m. On the far right, the Readers Fair, that's gonna be on April 28th. And then the Maker Space Open House is gonna be March 13th from 5 to 6 p.m. So the Maker Space, if you're not familiar, is an area of the library where they have a number of equipment and tools that are available for the public to use. And some of that includes a laser engraver, a smart cutting machine, a 3D printer, a sewing machine, and then we have everything from button makers and heat guns to different educational kits in the robotics side of the world that people can use and sometimes check out. Some of these things take multiple trainings or assistance from staff or be used in a class. Some have one-time instruction, so there's a variety of needs for that. But if people are looking for some of those resources, our library right in here in town has a great number of them, and that is all part of the Makerspace. Okay, our Good Neighbors, Great Madison. So the first one we're doing is a lighthearted encouragement to people to clean up after the pets, whether they're walking them, whether it's in their own yard, or if they accidentally get into other people's yards. We are putting this out there on social media to encourage people to make sure to clean up after the pets and use trash bins accordingly. Again, these are gonna be routine reminders to the public when things come up, if we have questions or if we get complaints or whatever the case is, or just things that we want people to know. And so you'll see those coming out from the city periodically, and we'll be including those in the monthly updates to help increase awareness. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments? Hey,
I appreciate your dog deposit slide.
okay,
I think a lot of people will appreciate it, yeah.
do we have Colton? Coulter? Okay, this is public comment time, so if you'd want to come forward to the microphone and that, and then, address the commission with, your thoughts or whatever.
Coulter Hendricks, how are you?
You know, really good.
Good.
You might wanna hit that mic though. If you hit the push, you might have to hold it a little bit so the red light comes on.
Yeah, try pressing it a couple times.
There
There
you
you
go.
go, you got it.
There
If you
you
could say
got
your name again into the record.
What's that?
If you could say your name again into the record too, please.
Sure, Coulter Hendricks. Okay. So, I'm here tonight, because I've had some issues, here, for the last two years or so, since April of 2023. I've been a truck driver, and I've been a truck driver driving in Madison. And over the last 8 or so months, I've noticed that your guys' police department seems to be following us and harassing us. And I wonder, is there something that we can do to alleviate this, to not get followed through town? And that's the only question I have for this commission. I hope that this commission sees that we as truck drivers, we spend a lot of money on fuel. And a lot of the truck drivers that I work with are pretty, they're unhappy. They're unhappy. They feel like they're being harassed by your police department. And I get it. I get why they feel that way. And the talk has been going around about boycotting purchasing fuel in Madison. I hope that this is something that we would be able to come to a consensus on. If we're doing something wrong to upset or to induce reasonable suspicion with your police officers, I would be happy to address that with my coworkers. But for instance, last night, I got followed through town by one of your police officers in a white F-150. The night before, I got followed through town by one of your police officers in a white Explorer. And oftentimes, it's not always just these two vehicles. It's, sometimes, it's a variety of things, but it seems like over the last 8 months, it's really kind of picked up. And in that time, also in the last 2 months, since the beginning of the year, I've lost a couple coworkers because of like rolling stop citations that they got. When we get those kind of citations, we lose our licenses. And I've lost 2 coworkers just since the beginning of the year because of it. And those guys are out of a job, they're out of a livelihood. I wonder, so like we don't stop differently in Madison. We stop the same in Madison as we do in Canton, as we do in Sioux Center, as we do in Arlington, as we do in Hurley, as we do in Sioux Falls. I mean, we don't blow stop signs in Madison, in particular, but this seems to be the only place that our guys are losing their licenses at. So, I wonder, what we normally do is we'll grind first as we come up to a stop sign, and as we're making the stop, it'll drop into first gear and we're able to take off again. I understand, from the guys that have lost their licenses, your police officers here are seeing that as not a satisfactory stop and are laying paper on guys for it. And I mean, I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that at all. But what I am saying is that it hasn't been an issue in Madison up until about 8 months ago, and it's continually not an issue anywhere else. That combined with, me personally and other guys getting followed through town consistently, and it makes me feel like we're a target to some extent, and it makes other guys feel like a target to the point that it's negatively affecting our perception of your police department and our willingness to spend our thousands of dollars a day on fuel here. Because it's thousands of dollars a day that we spend on fuel every single day. And I think the guys are just wondering what do we need to be doing something differently? Because since those guys lost their licenses, we're stopping fully and completely. And in fact, well, anyway, never mind that. But yeah, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're not a thorn in the side of the local police department. I just wonder why they're continuing to follow me. And, you know, like I say, last night and the night before, it was those two. But, I mean, it's a variety, and it happens pretty regularly. So, that's what I have to say. And, I want to let you all know that, like, there's a lot of unhappy truckers, who spend a lot of money. And I'm hoping that, maybe the police department would be willing to communicate with us. When I got pulled over, by one of your officers. And, my experience was that the officer, didn't effectively identify himself. He talked really fast, and I couldn't understand what he was saying when he was telling me who he was and who he was with. And then he kind of like he just demanded that I admit to a crime. And, you know, that wasn't appropriate, I didn't feel. I spent 9 years in law enforcement. I was with the Turner County Sheriff's Office, starting in 2013 until 22. And I know that that's inappropriate police behavior. I know that we don't demand anybody admit to any crime, as everybody has the right to remain silent in those situations. That's what I chose to do, and I didn't get any ticket. I don't know about the other guys that have now lost their licenses and are out of a job, but that was my personal experience with when I got pulled over by one of your officers. And it just, that kind of stuff, everything that I've said altogether, it just makes it hard to take your police department seriously. And I hope that we can come to a consensus and we can continue to do business here, because I really like Madison. I've delivered a lot of milk here, and I've hauled a lot of milk through here. I like this town a lot. And Dave over at Sunshine has been awfully good to me, way better than anybody else on my route. He was one of my favorite guys. So anyway, that's all I have to say, is that we would love to continue to do business here, but there's a lot of truckers that feel harassed, and I'm speaking on their behalf as well tonight. So
Thank you for coming, thank you for speaking. The only complaint that I've heard from citizens that they've asked the police department is those using the Jake brakes and that, and, you know, coming into town and that, you know. Beyond that and that, I've not discussed anything with our city police. But the nice thing about this is this is recorded, and so our police chief will be able to, you know, review your comments and that, and, you know, make whatever comments he has with his officers, so. But I appreciate,
fair enough, man.
I appreciate you coming forward.
Yeah, well, thank you. Hey, have a good one.
Thank you. Okay, under announcements, the quarterly commission planning meeting will be Monday, March 10th at noon. And then the next regular commission meeting will be Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. And then we also have, and would like people to, you know, pick up applications to fill open vacancies on the Community Center Advisory Committee. And that would be a term that would end in December 2026. And then we also have openings on the Housing and Redevelopment Commission ending in February 2029. So if you have a desire to, you know, be on a committee for the city, and that, please contact our offices here and pick up an application. With that, if there's any other comments, questions? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Nobody else wants to?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.